Welcome to Layer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, another in my series of Milestone Moments. These are moments in a band's career where everything comes together and it can shape their future and their identity. And maybe even a new member comes into the band that helps take them to that next level. So the band that I've picked for today is Iron Maiden and their 1982 album, The Number of the Beast. This is an absolutely legendary album in heavy metal. If you see polls a lot of times for the greatest metal albums of all time, this is always really close to the top, if not number one. It's usually this and British Steel battling it out for that top spot there, and for good reason. This is an absolutely amazing album and a real milestone moment for heavy metal and for Iron Maiden. This is the third studio album from Iron Maiden. They have a new singer in the band, Bruce Dickinson, aka the Air Raid Siren. Bruce comes into the band after Paul Di'Anno. I loved Paul Di'Anno. Paul Di'Anno has a more of kind of a pub rock, a little bit more of a grittier, streety voice to the way he sang. Dickinson is more a limitless range, acrobatic vocalist, super powerful. And when Bruce comes into the band, he just allows then Steve Harris and his songwriting to be able to just push the band and take the band to a whole new level. It's really hard to imagine Paul Di'Anno singing any of these songs on this album because, again, the vocals are so demanding and so just all over the place. It makes a massive immediate impact. A lot of times it can be hard for a band for the second singer because the band has sort of started to shape has shaped or is beginning to shape their identity with their original singer. And regardless of how good the second singer is, it can sometimes be hard to follow because everybody just identifies the band with the original singer. Case in point would be like Black Sabbath, Ronnie James Dio, my favorite heavy metal vocalist of all time. And for a lot of people, still Ozzy is Black Sabbath, and that era is what people remember Black Sabbath for. But that's not the case here with Iron Maiden. Bruce comes in, and again, I love Paul Di'Anno, and Di'Anno was a great singer in his own right, had his own unique style and voice and look and everything. But Bruce comes in and just confidently takes command of the vocal chair and just makes himself known. And Bruce wasn't a complete unknown. He had sung with the new wave of British heavy metal band Samson, but this was certainly Bruce's big step into the limelight here, and he handles it very, very well. Also, the band at this point, they're really starting to pick up steam, pick up momentum. And you can just feel it in the songwriting and the energy from the band that they're a band that's quickly ascending to the top. They're not there yet to the top, so they still have that sort of youthful fire and energy and conquering the world attitude. And it all comes together here on this record here, and it just captures that so well. So the band is the new guy, Bruce, on vocals. Steve Harris, founder, bass player, primary songwriter on most of the early stuff. It should be noted that Bruce doesn't get any writing credit on this record, but according to him in interviews, he was involved in the writing of some of these songs, but because of some contractual obligations with his old band, he wasn't allowed to put himself down as a songwriter. But he says that he was involved in the writing on Children of the Damned, Prisoner, and Run to the Hills. And it's easy to hear that because there's a lot of Bruce's melody lines, Bruce's stylings on those songs. Adrian Smith and Dave Murray on guitar. I've talked about Adrian Smith and Dave Murray. They're a great combination. Adrian Smith has more kind of the Michael Schenker style, a little more thought out, a little more melodic. Dave Murray is a little bit more off the cuff, more legato, loose whammy bar type of stuff, and they both complement each other really, really well. Clive Burr on drums. This would be Clive's last album with the band. He would be replaced by Nickel McBrain after this. Clive is a solid, hard hitting, hard driving drummer. He definitely has chops, but I think his strength is in just sort of that straightforward kind of driving feels to his sound. The album is produced by Martin Birch, who would have started with Killers and would work through many Iron Maiden albums and really work with Iron Maiden on their biggest albums. And Martin knows how to bring out the best in a band. Martin, by this time, was a legendary producer, having worked with Deep Purple. And so the band totally embraced him, as they were big fans of Deep Purple, and he had a strong resume coming into this. And he is really able, Martin's mixes sadly, Martin Birch passed away not that long ago, and in my tribute video to him, I talked about how he was always able to get the energy of the band, kind of capture what was special about the band, get really good, solid, clean sounding recordings. They're not super slick or super hi-fi or anything, but you can hear all the instruments. You can feel the energy of the band coming out of the mixes. So the bass sounds great on this. Steve Harris, his bass is always really up front. The guitars sound great. Just everything sounds great on this. And now with Bruce in the band, there's starting to be more layered vocals. Things are getting more involved with the vocals, like the chorus and like Run to the Hills, for instance. It just explodes with these like millions of big voices, which help lift a lot of these choruses and make them really jump out at you. The album starts with Invaders. This is a song that I did a deep cuts episode with some friends, and this was a song that nobody else seemed to like, but I actually enjoy it. I love the main driving riff. I love the way it starts. It just comes out of the gate right at you, bass Steve with his bass fills, and then the main sort of driving riff, and I love then it like sort of shifts keys, and Bruce coming in, and Bruce was very good at this too, of like handling Steve Harris's lyrics. Steve was a guy that could be kind of wordy, which is cool, which is fine, and Steve really knew how to take Bruce really knew how to take Steve's lyrics and just spit them out and really articulate them really well, and he does that really great in this one. This sort of Viking attacking theme thing to this. And I think what turns people off with this song is the chorus. The chorus is really quirky. It's like Veta, Bruce's voice up really high, and then he's dropping down really low. Again, this acrobatic thing in Bruce's voice. So I think the chorus is just so bizarre. It shifts and changes key, and I love it, but I understand why some people, it's a little bit too strange for some people. Children of the Damned, here's a absolutely classic Iron Maiden song, something that the last time I saw them live, they actually did this. They hadn't played it live in a while. A total showcase here for Bruce when these choruses kick in and Bruce just the air raid siren hitting those notes. I mean, Bruce had so much power behind his upper notes, and you could just sort of picture him with his arm waving around and children of the damned. The way he's able to just belt that stuff out just really helped elevate the choruses in these songs. This is a great example of that. And I love the acoustic guitars and Steve's sort of moving bass and the way it builds and explodes in the chorus. And then the end of the song, it goes into this really fast galloping type section, something that Iron Maiden is famous for, that gallop. The Prisoner starts off with a drum groove from Clive, and then kind of a funky syncopated kind of guitar line, and before it goes into a straightforward one. This is a great chorus too. It sort of opens up where like hanging chords in the chorus, where in the verse part it's really driving really hard, and then it opens up into these hanging chords and Bruce sort of singing out over the top. The Prisoner is an Adrian Smith and Steve Harris song, so Adrian Smith getting in on the songwriting here. Adrian Smith, as time would go on, would prove to be even a stronger and stronger songwriter. This is the second album with Adrian Smith. 22 Acacia Avenue is Adrian Smith again and Steve Harris. Another great one, another sort of epic Steve Harris kind of song, sort of maybe not quite in the vein of Phantom of the Opera. We'll get to the real epic of this album here on the album closer, but it's a fun one, kind of telling a story. It's kind of a part two to Charlotte the Harlot song off of the first Iron Maiden album. Side 2 starts with the absolutely legendary metal anthem, classic. This comes on a PA system. When you're waiting for a band to come on and this comes on a PA system, everybody's singing along. The Number of the Beast, one of the, absolutely legendary classic heavy metal song. It's everything that's great about Iron Maiden. It's got the driving riffs. It's got the big chorus. It's got some bass solo from Steve. It's got ripping leads from Dave and Adrian. It's got this odd meter sort of riff thing in the intro at the beginning. It's got Bruce doing one of the greatest metal screams of all time. Right when the ba-da-da-da, yeah, Bruce doing his thing there, and it's just absolutely incredible, phenomenal song. One of those songs that I've heard it a million times, but whenever it comes on at a show, or if I see it, this video gets played a lot when they're doing retro video shows, I always crank it up and get into it. Absolutely amazing song that the band would play live pretty much forever after this in their live sets. And the intro to the song is also legendary too. And I never knew this until I was getting ready to make this video. I always thought that was Vincent Price at the beginning of it because it sounds just like Vincent Price, but it's not. They tried to get Vincent Price. They couldn't. He was too expensive. And Iron Maiden at this time, they were still sort of climbing the ladder, if you will. They just didn't have the budget for Vincent Price. So they had Barry Clayton, who I guess did his best Vincent Price impersonation because, man, holy moly, I've been listening to this album for, 40 years now, 38 years, and I always thought it was Vincent Price, but here it isn't. Legendary intro. As soon as it kicks in, everybody knows it. Everybody can, talk right along with it, taken from, I believe, Revelations in the Bible or somewhere in the Bible. All right, next is another Iron Maiden anthem, another heavy metal anthem, Run to the Hills. Here's classic Maiden, the galloping. The intro is legendary with the harmony guitars. Iron Maiden famous for that. Galloping rhythm. Iron Maiden does this so well. Here we are. We'll get more of this on the Trooper, that kind of riding into battle thing, galloping horses. Classic video. Huge chorus, Bruce again, way up in the stratosphere. This is another one that when this comes on the radio, if metalheads are around, fist in the air, you sing along with it. You can't help it. It's a classic. What makes heavy metal great? A song like this. Great song. Gangland, maybe if I had to pick my least favorite on the album, it might be Gangland. This one was written by Clive Burr and Adrian Smith. And it's still cool, though. It's got a great chorus. It's got a great driving sort of drum groove. The drums are kind of the main figure in this song in a lot of ways, and like the verses. And then the album ends with another absolute classic. How many times have I said that for this album? Hallowed Be Thy Name. This is the epic one, along the lines of what they did with Phantom of the Opera, what they would do with Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This is up there with those. Absolutely fantastic, amazing song. Builds so well. That tolling bell, I've said this a whole bunch of times in other videos. If you want to get me excited, get me going, throw a tolling bell in there, throw a choir, or throw a acoustic clean classical guitar thing. And those things, I am a sucker for all those things. It's got the bell in here. It's got that harmonized guitar line, Steve just hitting those open notes on his low string, Bruce singing real ominously, and then the groove of the song kicks in, and Bruce takes it up. And this song is just great because it really captures the mood of the lyrics. This guy being led to the gallows and everything in his final moments, and it is just such an atmospheric song, captures the mood of it perfectly. It's got all these great, like, little melodic riff lines from the guitar where Steve chugging away on the bass, the drums sort of going line, and the guitar's then there's parts where the whole band locks in on these tight little riffs, and it gets more frantic as the song goes on, and then it just ends in this big epic climax. So just an absolutely fantastic song. Steve Harris penned song. Steve could do no wrong at this point. Lyrics are great. The mood of it is just absolutely fantastic. Just a killer song. As an interesting note, there's I think it was the B-side to, I believe, Run to the Hills, a song called Total Eclipse, which the band kind of felt in hindsight later on that should have been on the record. And they felt it should have maybe been put in place of, like, maybe Gangland. And it is a really cool song. You can hear it on some of the deluxe editions and remastered versions of the album. This song was put on there. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Revelations. It has that kind of like mid-tempo and the way the chords sort of move around. But it's a great one. It's a great hook. It's amazing that it's a shame or amazing that it didn't get on the album. But honestly, I've heard this album so many times in this form, it would be hard for me to hear this any other way. In fact, I have the vinyl. I have the original CD version, and I did get the remastered version, and it just always throws me off mentally when Total Eclipse comes in. I think they put it either right before or right after Gangland. I think it's after Gangland. And it just always throws me off because I hear the end of Gangland and I'm just ready for Hallowed Be Thy Name. So this is a milestone moment. This is a milestone moment for the band. This is a milestone moment for heavy metal. Iron Maiden really starting now to conquer the world with this album. They're getting all kinds of attentions, positive and negative. The whole PMRC, people calling them Satanists because of the album cover, and this is right in that era when this whole thing is sort of starting, especially here in the States, like people protesting heavy metal becoming with the corrupting the youth of America, of the world. And Iron Maiden here sort of gets in on that, and they're right there at ground zero when all this stuff starts happening, and so they get a lot of heat here for the song and the album title and everything. But of course, Iron Maiden, they always have a great sense of humor about the whole thing. I remember seeing the guys in the band wearing a shirt, and one guy said 666, the number of the beast, and the other guy had a shirt on that said 664, the bloke next door. So, all right, so a milestone moment for heavy metal, a legendary heavy metal album, an absolute classic. I could have put this as a stone cold classic. I went for a milestone moment because of Bruce entering the band and just what this did for heavy metal in general. This also brought Iron Maiden onto MTV. MTV comes around at this time. Iron Maiden then with like Run to the Hills and the Number of the Beast video, sort of just not a live video, but it's got acting and stuff going on. And so this brings just Iron Maiden just explodes and gets brought into a whole new audience, and around the world they become the legends that they still are today. So okay, let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of Number of the Beast? Is it your favorite Iron Maiden album? Is it my favorite Iron Maiden album? It's at the top there. I think Peace of Mind might edge it out for me, but hey, I couldn't argue with anybody who would say that this is their number one album. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this record. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.